Dubrovnik, one, it is beautiful. We have actually taken the advice of our tour guide and doing as the locals do. So we have just come out and around the outside, walked down past all the boats around the outside of the walls. It's whispering, so it seems like it's more of a secret. Welcome to day 3 of our Sail Croatia experience / dream.
It's been amazing. Today was just as amazing as every other day. Had a beautiful breakfast. Pulled into a bay with just crystal
like secluded
clear. Yeah, clear water, secluded, not many people around. And then danger.
Mandatory jump. Every day we've got to do a jump just like this.
When he says we, it means him.
Okay, yeah, I did a jump just like this.
The thing that we keep finding is that the water is just so clear and so blue everywhere we go.
Warm as well.
Yeah.
Is it like it's probably among the warmest, I mean the time of year of course, but the clearest and warmest water that we've seen. Croatia takes the cake. The big thing that we're doing today is going into Dubrovnik and we're doing a tour, a walking tour. Because from what we have been told by Antonio, our tour guide, well like our, what do we call him? Our cruise manager, is that Dubrovnik is just full of some crazy tales. We just don't know if we believe him.
There's a lot of history.
He's big into history and he keeps retelling us these stories and we're like, whoa, that's amazing. But is it true?
Yeah,
so
we're going to have to fact check.
We'll find out the legit version. So we have just sailed away and now we've landed, we've come into a port which is just around from Dubrovnik, and very soon we shall be heading in.
Yay.
We've made it down now into Dubrovnik after about 20 minutes on the bus.
It's very busy here, but it is
huge.
Same page.
We've been told, I mean, so Game of Thrones, a lot of Game of Thrones was filmed here. That's why this area is famous and why a lot of people come here. I've seen some of it.
I haven't seen any of it.
Actually, no, I've seen all the seasons. I'm just not a big fanboy.
I know what it's about.
Yeah. So, and you know that it's about like castles and like
dragons.
Yeah, exactly. So it is just absolutely insane. The size and the scale of the castles is, even with my anticipation of what to expect and knowing that's what this area is famous for, has still blown me away. When we got to the top of the hill and we saw that first one looking down, we looked at each other. Yeah, we stopped.
What are they called? Like the city walls?
Yeah, the city walls. So this whole city is walled. And it's famous for that, but as you can tell, we don't really know much.
This is why we're going
is why we're doing a walking tour, which we are starting in about 5 minutes' time. So we've come down inside the walls now, and apparently we're about to learn a really interesting story about this church here, which has survived a ton of earthquakes and fires and has become quite famous for it somehow.
It was in 1667, and that was the earthquake that destroyed all the city. Everything disappeared, and after that was a fire that lasted 20 days. It was really a big disaster here, but only this church survived. And also in our homeland war that happened 27 years ago, a lot of places were hit and were damaged, but this church wasn't. So I suggest that if anything happens while you are here, just run in that church and save yourself.
What's that?
It's freezing.
Is it?
It's so hot. Very refreshing.
Just see walking through the streets just how busy it is. This is the main like strip that runs right the way down. There are tour groups absolutely everywhere. Tons and tons of people. It flows quite nicely though. One thing that they've done really well here, I think, is that they've created, when you walk through the main walkway type bits, they'll have a sign that you can, if you're going in, you walk on the right side. If you're coming out, the people are walking on the left or their right on the way through. So it actually funnels through the crowds, but it does look like there's some space off on these side streets. Sorry, this thing that is hanging out of my ear is we've been given like headsets because there are so many people. It's the first time we've done a walking tour, and our guide is just sort of chatting away in her earpiece, and she is up there somewhere. One other thing about the church, the little church that survived all the earthquakes, is it survived bombs as well.
Yeah, in the 90s there were like 2,000 bombs that were dropped inside the city walls. So I think something like 70% of the roof, like the rooftops, were destroyed.
The tiles.
And nobody actually thought that they would attack here because it was under UNESCO protection, but they did.
Sorry, I mean by the tiles, I mean that's where the story came from, was that because if you look up a lot of the tiles, you can see have been completely replaced and are all new. These other tourists have just come and joined our tour here. Having a little photo. So anyone who is a Game of Thrones fan that is watching this will know what this street is all about. This is from season 5 finale, I think it was, the Walk of Shame, when Cersei, she walked through these streets as her punishment and was yelled at.
There's a lady with a bell shouting shame, shame. She goes downstairs and then through the crowd. That's something we mostly remember.
I won't go too much into detail because if you're not a Game of Thrones fan, you'll be thinking, means nothing to me. Other than that, it's a really cool street. This is crazy. We were just walking through a tiny little alleyway, surrounded by concrete, and now we've come outside the walls. And look at this. Little, like a beach club here. So beyond the earthquakes and fires, Dubrovnik has actually been attacked and ruled by all sorts of different empires over the years, along with plague and hunger and inner turmoil. So the safest thing that they could do was agree upon protection from the Ottoman Empire. That was around the 1500s. And originally the stone walls around the city were made out of wood, but they sort of developed them further into stone, but that doesn't really help when you invite people in. So around 1806, the Russians were coming down to Dubrovnik. Napoleon's army was coming from the other side, and they actually asked if he could pass through the gates to go and reach the Russians to go to war. And Dubrovnik just figured they were stuck in the middle, so thought let Napoleon through and then they can stay out of the way. Except for when Napoleon and his army came in, they turned around and basically took Dubrovnik. So that's some of the interesting stuff that we learned, but also a couple of the tidbits. Star Wars and Robin Hood were filmed there, which was a couple of versions, I don't know which ones in particular. And there's also this really interesting story which we don't know much more about, but this building here was known as like the quarantine area. So every visitor that wanted to come to Dubrovnik had to spend 40 days here before being let into the city. So basically to prove that they didn't have plague or that they weren't sick. And that was like the entry criteria. That was an hour of power.
It was full on. There was so much information in such a short amount of time, but it was such a good way to like get your bearings for the inside the walls.
It's complicated.
Yeah, there's so many alleyways and hills and stairs and
so there was so much history that we don't really go into history too much on this channel, but hopefully some of the little tidbits have been interesting because there were some classic stories, and it turns out that Antonio was in fact correct. A lot of the stuff that he told us, it did match up. Yeah. So I think if you are coming to Dubrovnik, one, it is beautiful, but prepare for a lot of people. Prepare for higher prices. Bring your camera because it is just, like I said, it's beautiful. It's just so stunning inside these walls.
Put your walking shoes on.
Walking shoes on. Yeah, I feel like that's my thing. Do a tour.
Yeah.
That's one would be, because I think it was a really good way to get around and see a lot. We have actually taken the advice of our tour guide and doing as the locals do. So we have just walked out from the bottom of the square, inside the walls, come out and around the outside, walk down past all the boats around the outside of the walls. It's whispering, so it seems like it's more of a secret. There's loads of other people. And we're just going to do as the locals do. We've got ourselves a little bit of food, a little bit of drinks, and we're just going to sit down here. We've got 3 boats out in front of us. The sun is just setting out over that way. We're right by the ocean.
So peaceful.
We're just going to end our night just sitting here, doing as the locals do. We're sleeping on board the boat. tonight in a port close by.
Yes.
And then tomorrow it begins all again. Another day. We're going to a national park.
So, thank you so much for watching.
I'll catch you in the comments. Bye.